Do you swear the information, testimony you're about to give this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, you can put your hand down. Can you tell the jury who you are?
Renee Driver,
Okay, and where do you currently live? City and state is fine.
Florida.
Okay, and what do you do for a living?
I'm a server.
Okay, all right, and how do you know Chloe?
She's my daughter.
Okay, how many children do you have?
3.
Okay, is she the oldest, youngest? Where does she fall in line?
Youngest.
Okay. I know that it's very hard for you to be here today, and if you need a break or a moment, just let me know, okay? All right. Tell us about Chloe as a child.
She was a beautiful little girl. She was a spitfire.
Okay, and what do you mean by spitfire?
She was very, she knew everything. She was smarter than everybody and in her family.
Okay. And that was primarily when she was a teenager?
Yes, she did gymnastics when she was a little girl, and she had friends, and she played baseball in junior high school, I believe, or softball. But as she got older, she just knew everything.
Okay. Were you close with your daughter while she was growing up?
I thought I was.
Okay. Have you learned a lot of information since this case started that
Yes.
made you reevaluate that position?
Yes.
Okay. When she was a teenager, I know you said she was headstrong.
Very.
Your family moved around a lot, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that kind of created a little bit of a level of upheaval with Chloe in terms of relationships with people and friends?
I didn't think it was.
Okay. When she was a teenager, did you notice any signs or concerns about her mood or possible mental illness when she was a child?
There were a lot of different things. She was very headstrong, and I just thought she was going to be a strong little girl. And then as she got older, she put me through some stuff.
Okay.
There were times where she put me through hell.
Okay. And a lot of that was kind of based on teenagers who know better than their
Yes.
parents.
Yes.
Wasn't her out committing crimes or anything like
Oh,
that?
no,
It
no,
was-
no, no.
Definitely thought she was all-knowing or anything like that. Were you aware when she was a child of whether or not she had attempted to commit suicide?
When she was a child?
Well, as a teenager.
No.
Okay. Did you subsequently learn about some behavioral issues related to that after this case started? With cutting or anything like that?
She was cutting her wrist, but I never knew it because she always wore those plastic bracelets, and it covered it, and I never had any idea
Okay.
that she was going through that.
Okay. She never communicated any of that to you
Never.
at all? Okay. When she ultimately left your house, that was when she was 17 years old?
I believe so.
Okay. And tell me what your thought process was about why you let her go.
Because I couldn't handle the way she was going about it. My middle and my younger siblings, I think, learned from their older one. My oldest son badgered me, and he would do it all day, every day until he got what he wanted. And my husband always worked out of state. I was Monday through Friday only parent, working and having 3 children. And when there's just a time where I gave in to him. Well, then it started becoming a habit. And I think Chloe got some of those habits maybe from him, watching him get what he wanted as she was growing up. She was never a materialistic kid, but when she wanted to leave, and she just asked and asked, and it wasn't just asking, it was arguing, it was fighting, it was, I just finally I gave in. On top of that, my husband ended up with a quadruple bypass. He was out of work for a couple of years. So, I mean, I had my own issues to deal with. On top of that, I had children to deal with that were very headstrong.
Okay. And when she left your house, how would you describe the level of communication you had with Chloe? Was it here and there? Was it constant?
It was here and there when she left.
When she left, okay. And was that usually via text or phone, or do you recall?
Probably both.
Okay. When did you first find out that she was involved with Mr. Ben Michael?
18, maybe.
2018, or when she was?
No, when she, well, yeah, that would be 2018 also, yes.
Okay. And how did you find out about that?
She came home and I found out she was pregnant, I believe.
Okay. And was that the first time you found out about the age difference between the two of them?
Yes, I had no idea. I didn't know about him, I didn't know about his age, I knew nothing.
You knew nothing. She hadn't told you about any of that?
Not
Okay.
one thing.
And what was your reaction to finding out his age?
I said I never wanted to meet him. I never wanted him around the house. She was welcome to stay and with her baby, but I wanted nothing to do with him.
Okay. And then ultimately, she had the baby, but continued to stay with him, correct?
Yes.
At any point in time, did you have any concerns about their relationship prior to the birth of Hannah?
Well, it was all just a big shock. I did what I could to try to get her to stay with me, but it didn't work.
Okay. And so then ultimately Hannah was born. When was the first time you got to meet Hannah?
January of 2019.
Okay. And in what kind of situation was that? Did they bring her to you?
Yes.
Or? Okay. And when you observed Chloe with Hannah, what did you observe about her care and demeanor with her daughter?
She was a very good mother and she loved her daughter.
Okay. Never saw any concerns of...
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at that time.
As far as from what you could see, did you feel that she was the primary caregiver of that child?
Yes.
Okay. And then after the birth of Hannah, how would you describe the level of contact you had with Chloe at that time? Was it?
It was minimal.
Okay. Did you initiate contact with her, trying to?
A lot.
Okay. And what was the response to that contact?
Honestly, I don't remember. It wasn't as much as I would have liked.
Okay. And then Hannah was born in October of 2019, and then you met her in January.
Oh, so I met her in 2020. I'm sorry, January of 2020.
January 2020.
Yes.
Okay, so the first time you met her was January 2020, and that was at your house?
Yes.
Okay. And then when do you recall the next time you saw her?
April of 2020.
Of 2020. And each one of these times that Chloe would bring her to you, you didn't observe anything concerning about the care of Hannah?
No.
Did you ever observe any signs of mental illness or anything at that point with your daughter?
No, other than me just not being able to understand how she would have gotten involved with somebody that was so much older than her.
Okay. You struggled with that?
Yes.
Okay. When was the first time you really found out anything about the true nature of their relationship?
I don't believe I met him in January of 2020, or I don't believe he was there. Probably July of 2020.
Okay, and can you share what those concerns were?
So I got to see how much weight Chloe had lost. I could see her in July. She was at my house for a couple of weeks. Just everything, a lot of had just changed. She was mumbling. She was, nothing really changed with Hannah, just her. She was just falling apart. I mean, she literally was just falling apart. But at the same time, at that time, I wasn't so much paying attention to her because I had Hannah too, and I was just so excited every time I got to see Hannah.
Was that the time that involved going to the river with them?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so, yes.
And then when was the next time that you saw Hannah? Do you recall?
After the incident in November.
Okay. All right, so let's jump forward to Thanksgiving of 2020.
Okay.
Well, before I do that, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to show you what's marked as defense 18. Can you recognize that picture?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us about what age Chloe was at that particular, well, I'll move to admit defense 18. No objection.
It's admitted.
Judge, would you please turn on the overhead so I can publish? Thank you.
Okay. Are you doing the document camera or are you doing?
Okay, it should be on the computer if you just give me 1 second. Yeah. I'll skip that one for right now.
Okay, sorry that it's not letting me do what needs to be done.
Thank you. All right, so let's jump forward to Thanksgiving of 2020, okay?
Okay.
And where were you at that time? Where were you living?
Knoxville.
Okay. And you lived with your husband in Knoxville at that time?
I did.
Okay. And tell us what happened on November 26th of 2020.
Was that Thanksgiving Day?
Yes, ma'am.
I received some alarming texts from Chloe, which I woke my husband up and I said that we need to go to Asheville.
Okay. And based on those texts, what did you and your husband immediately do?
Got dressed and went to Asheville.
Okay. And about how far away is that for you guys?
Maybe 2 hours? I don't remember.
Okay. What do you remember about what time of day you arrived there?
I believe we left around 11, so I'm going to say around 1:30.
Okay. But you were concerned enough by the information you had received from Chloe at that time that you immediately dropped
Yes.
what you were doing and got in the car?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened when you arrived in Asheville?
Chloe was there. She was distraught. She was crying. She was very upset because Brian had taken off with Hannah.
Okay. So when you got there, Hannah was not there.
Hannah was not there.
Did you know where Hannah was at that point in time?
No idea.
Okay. And what did you do next?
I believe we called the police.
Okay. And then after calling the police, what did you all decide to do?
After everything was all settled and done with, we ended up leaving Asheville without Hannah, and we brought Chloe
Back to your house in
back.
Knoxville?
Yes.
Okay. And when you got back to Knoxville, is that the first time you kind of became aware of everything that had been going on?
Yes.
Okay. Is the first time you learned that?
It started trickling in.
Okay. First time you learned anything about Hannah not having a birth certificate or pediatric care?
That is correct.
Okay. And what steps did you take from there?
On Friday after Thanksgiving, I went straight to Knoxville Police Department to see if there was anything we could do. There was absolutely nothing we could do. since it didn't happen in where I lived. Then I started looking on the internet and making phone calls about getting Hannah a birth certificate. I talked to Brian's mother. She gave me a phone number. On Saturday, I called the phone number that she gave me that was for the FBI. I called Memorial Hospital that was in Miami, Florida. And I just wanted to get some kind of ball rolling on getting her a birth certificate. And I will tell you, I did have to lie about that to Chloe because she was adamant of not, she did not want Hannah to have a birth certificate because Brian was ordering her not to, and to make sure that I didn't get involved in getting a birth certificate.
Okay, so you were.
But we were doing it behind her back.
Okay, but you were trying to, at the same time, you were also trying to kind of fix those things that the Asheville Police Department and Knoxville Police Department had all told you.
I was assuming that there could have been an Amber Alert out for her. That's all I wanted was Hannah back. But evidently I was wrong, and they weren't able to do anything like that.
Okay, and at that point it's because there had been no birth certificate or determination of parentage?
Yes, and also because Hannah was Brian's daughter, all they had to do was a blood test, which means they didn't find her in danger,
Okay.
so they couldn't move on.
All right, so at that particular point in time, you learned more about the relationship in those 48, 72 hours than you had the entire 2.5
Absolutely.
years beforehand.
Absolutely.
When you picked up your daughter in Asheville, do you recall seeing any physical marks on her that you were concerned about?
At that time, I believe she had a black eye, and I also believe the police took pictures of her back because she had been dragged or thrown on the ground, and there were marks on her back.
Okay. So when you went to pick her up that day, you recall her having that black eye?
Yes.
Okay. Without telling us what she said, did you ask her about that black eye? Do you recall?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so in response to all of these things that you were learning in this short period of time, were you trying to help Chloe and Hannah formulate a plan?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that was reflected in the steps you took to try to get the birth certificate or other things?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Did you get any indication at that point in time? Well, I'll move on. So during that period of time, Chloe, did you have any contact with Mr. Ben Michael when Hannah was gone?
Yes.
Okay. And did he say some pretty concerning things to you at that time without saying what he said? Were there things that were said that concerned you?
On Thanksgiving evening, yes.
Okay. And that just again contributed to you trying to figure out what to do next, correct?
Yes, I exploded.
All right. And you had never really ever had to deal with anything like this beforehand, correct?
No.
Okay. Was Hannah your only grandchild?
Yes.
Okay. And then ultimately, Chloe had been communicating with Mr. Ben Michael, correct? To try to get back to Hannah?
Yes.
Okay. And was she, during that time that she was separated, what was her demeanor?
Just lost, confused.
Okay.
I don't.
Well, she
was hopeless.
She was hopeless?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you recall, Chloe, well, let me rephrase that. You took a video of Chloe on November 27th. Do you recall that?
I do.
Okay. What number?
I think I need
December
to.
7th.
shut this down and restart it
Okay.
to try to get that to work, so
Thank
I'm
you.
just gonna.
Sure.
All right, here we go. Hopefully. All right, you can proceed. I'm sorry, everything. I pushed everything I know to push. So you're trying to publish a document, or you're still
I
interested?
published in the video.
Okay.
I'm
Is there a remote up there? Ms. Trevor, you might need to turn on the monitor. Oh, no, there.
It says lectern input. It says live to displays.
Is the HDMI cord plugged in?
Looks like it is.
Back.
Oh, no.
Here we go.
There we go. Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as defense 7. Okay? I'm just going to have you watch this video, okay?
My name is Chloe Driver. It's 11/27/2020. I am being forced to get into a truck with Benjamin Ben Mikhail or Brian Joyce to see my daughter again because he has kept her away from me. I do not know where she is, and he won't tell me anything. He's kept her with people that I don't really know well, and I don't know what's going on with her. And I'm being forced to get in the car and go with him to be able to see her. And I don't even know if I'm actually going straight to her, but I'm doing whatever I think I can to get to her. Her name is Hannah Nicole Driver.
All right. And you're the one that took that video, correct? All right. Tell us why you took that video.
Because I was going to send it to the police officer in North Carolina
Were you
to see if he could help. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to go about getting help, even though I lived where I lived, and she was taken from Asheville. So I was going to take that video and send it to the officer in Asheville that helped us, because he was a very nice person, and he said he would help us in any way he could. So
Were you concerned about the safety of your daughter and your granddaughter at that time?
absolutely.
Okay. Ultimately, Chloe left your residence after being there a couple days, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall when your next communication was from her?
I don't know, all these time periods are getting messed up in my head. There was a time where she came back for a day or two, and then he, I guess, was somewhere in Knoxville, I don't know where. And I believe they picked her up to go back to Asheville to look at some property.
Okay. What was her demeanor or when she was with you over Thanksgiving and the time thereafter? Can you describe like her affect or what you noticed about her?
She was a mess because Hannah wasn't there, but she was relieved because she was at home. At least that's what I thought. That's what I saw.
Did she appear tired or distressed or?
So she always appeared tired. She always appeared hungry.
Okay. And then you also, I think, indicated that she was acting kind of strangely in terms of mumbling or like.
And I started noticing that in July when she was at my house for a couple of weeks.
Okay. Did you see it again in November? Do you recall?
I honestly don't recall. I don't know.
All right. If you would have told an evaluator in this case that that's something that you talked to, you have no reason to dispute that, though, correct?
Absolutely not.
And I think you already indicated that you're having a lot of issues with the memories.
Absolutely.
Okay. And this has been a pretty traumatic and stressful event for you
Yes.
and your family, correct? Okay. So she came back to you with Hannah at some point in time, correct? After?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And I'm going to show you what is marked. Defense 19 and 20. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
All right, if you will just take a look at these two pictures for me. All right. Do I need to admit those? No objection.
You're admitted.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so this is a picture that was, I'm trying, it's not my computer. There we go. All right. These were pictures, and that's your residence there, correct?
It
In the
is.
background? All
It
right.
is.
And that this was after Thanksgiving of 2020, correct? Do you recall?
Yes. It was the beginning of December, I believe.
Okay. And do you know who took these pictures?
I did.
You took those pictures? Okay. And that this is an accurate representation of what Chloe looked like
Yes.
at the end of November 2020? Okay. Looking back on these pictures, do they cause you some level of distress?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I didn't see it at the time. All I saw was Hannah.
Okay.
Sorry.
And you also took this picture as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What were you trying to do? What were you and your husband trying to do during this time after Chloe left with Hannah and went back with Mr. Ben Michael?
We were just trying to get her and Hannah to stay with us.
And how were you doing that? Do you recall?
Just, my husband actually told her that somewhere down the line that if she came home, he would pay for her to go to school and buy her a car. And she did not like that. She said that it would have to be her choice if she decided to come home and do all.
Did you feel at that point in time that she felt like she could leave that relationship?
No.
Okay. Or if that she left that relationship, she had concerns about whether or not she'd be able to leave with Hannah?
She wouldn't be able to leave with Hannah.
Okay. All right. That's how.
That's what I did.
Okay. All right. And what other things did you and your husband do between Thanksgiving and December 8th of 2020 to try to convince Chloe to leave?
So she left right around those pictures, and I didn't see her again until December 7th, I don't believe.
Okay.
December 7th, she came to my house to pick up Hannah's stuff because they were heading to Florida. And I asked her to please stay with us. And she was worried. She was like, she said that Brian would never let her just would never allow her to stay with Hannah. And I tried to tell her, don't worry about Brian and Jason or whoever's here. We can take care of this. I will call the police and I will have them removed from our property. And she said, no, Mom, you don't understand that he'll never let us stay.
The way she acted when she was at your house, was that different than you had ever previously seen her since you,
Yes.
I mean, you previously described her as a spitfire and talkative and
No,
everything.
at this point she was, I hate to say it, but she was just drained and dead inside. She was like a zombie. She was just, she wasn't her. She wasn't Chloe.
Okay. Both physically and mentally or emotionally?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
all of it.
Did you notice when she came back to your home on the 7th whether or not she still had, or whether she had more bruises or anything on her face? Do you recall?
I do. Actually, December 7th, I asked her how she got the black eye, and she said she ran into a cabinet. I said, no, you didn't.
Okay. But she didn't give
And
you
she
any-
said, Mom, I deserved it. And it's,
So let's talk about looking back at all of this now, okay? You obviously lost your daughter and granddaughter, correct?
yes.
All right, and you found out on December the 8th about what had happened, correct?
Technically, I didn't find out until December 9th in the morning.
Okay, and that was from the Canton Police Department?
Yes.
Okay. And you and your husband immediately started providing information to law enforcement at that time, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. But
That
you
was a
had,
hard phone call, so I really don't remember what
understandable. Did at any point in time, did you ever, based on what you saw with Chloe, ever think that she would harm Hannah?
Absolutely not.
Did you have any concerns that she would ever harm herself?
I didn't think about it at the time. But now that I look back at so much and remember things, possibly. Yes.
So this, when you got that phone call from Canton Police, you were floored, correct?
Yes, I thought I lost my daughter and my granddaughter.
Okay.
Well, I did lose my granddaughter.
Can I have a moment, Your Honor? I don't have any further questions at this time. Ms. Gropper's going to ask you some questions, okay? I presume.
Good morning. Ms. Driver, I want to go through, you indicated that we saw those pictures, that after the incident where she came to your house and you made that video, her and Hannah both returned to your house and stayed with you for a couple of days, correct?
After the video,
Mm-hmm.
she was gone for probably a week or so.
Okay. Do you
I-
recall talking to
maybe.
Detective Cruz during this investigation with your husband?
December 11th, we went to Canton Police.
Okay. And do you recall telling her that Brian dropped off Hannah and Chloe at your house the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend? And they
No.
stayed for a couple of days?
I don't know. All the dates are mixed up in my head.
Okay.
I don't know when they came back.
Okay, but did her and Hannah come stay with you?
Yes, after the video?
After the video?
Yes.
Okay.
I just don't know if it was when exactly it was.
Okay, and then you said that she was leaving with him because they were going to go look at some property in Knoxville?
Yes.
All right.
In Asheville.
In Asheville. Okay, thank you. And when you were interviewed by Detective Cruz, did you tell her that you and your husband didn't know that anything was going on until about Thanksgiving time?
Yes.
Is that accurate?
For the most part, yes.
Okay. And did you tell her that at that time your concerns became your goal of getting Hannah away from both of them because you didn't want Hannah to be raised in a cult?
That is correct, too.
Okay. So your decision to try to get her a birth certificate and go behind Chloe's back in that regard is because you wanted Chloe to go to school, to get vaccines, to have medical care, and Chloe and Brian would not agree with that.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And you had repeatedly tried to get Chloe to leave that situation and she refused, correct?
She didn't refuse. She wanted to, but there was no way out.
Okay. And
in her mind.
all right. You're aware that after she killed Hannah, she continued to reach out to
Yes.
Brian and maintain a relationship with him, right?
I know that she kept in touch with him. He had a hold on her to where she had to.
Okay.
I don't understand it myself. I really don't.
All right. And I'm trying to get to the bottom of your statement that she had to. Do you understand that when she was reaching out to him, he could not access her physically and he could not call her?
At the hospital?
After
Or
she
in
was
jail?
arrested?
Yeah, I know that she could only make the calls out.
Okay. And are you aware of how often she chose to do that?
I know that, honestly, no, I don't.
Okay. Did you know that for over 2 years after she killed Hannah, she continued to call him?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that she made over 617 phone calls to him?
600? No, I was not.
Okay. Do you know just how many times she lied to you and told you she was no longer talking to him when she in fact was?
And I made it clear to her if she kept talking to him that I would have nothing to do with her.
Okay. And are you aware after you made those statements to her, she continued to speak to him behind your back?
I believe so. I believe she told me.
Okay. Do you recall a conversation that you had with her after her arrest where she told you that she wished we would have asked her permission to give Hannah an autopsy because her and Brian would have never agreed to that?
I don't know anything about that.
Okay. You don't remember having an argument with her about that's what happens when you kill a baby, that they have to have an autopsy?
With Chloe?
Right. Do you remember having that conversation with
No.
her? You don't remember that? Okay. Do you recall telling Detective Cruz when you spoke to her that Chloe went into this situation with strength from her upbringing and she was able to wane through it, but the last few months when he teamed up with Jason, that's when she lost hope?
I really don't. I'm sorry.
Okay. You've told this jury that you didn't become aware that there were any issues until the last couple of months, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're aware that's when Jason Spillers joined the picture?
I have not been keeping up with Jason. I don't know.
Okay.
I know that he was at the river, but he was only at the river for a few minutes.
Okay. So you don't...
After that, I know nothing about this cult. I know nothing about these people. I only know about Chloe and Brian and maybe a little bit about the two girls. That's it. I didn't go into their life.
Okay.
Like, I don't know.
All right.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So you don't recall saying that she went into the situation with strength and that the situation in the last couple of months had gotten bad since Jason joined the group. You don't remember?
Absolutely not. That doesn't even sound like my words.
Okay.
I don't know.
I want to talk to you about Chloe's access to money. Did at some point she transfer you $65,000?
60.
$60,000?
Mhm.
And when did that happen?
I asked her to put that money to take it out of her account so Brian could no longer have any way of holding onto it or getting a hold of it. And I asked her to put it in another account because I wanted her and Hannah to start figuring something out as far as getting away.
Okay. Do you recall when that was?
Hannah and Chloe it had to have been in November.
Okay. So you said you wanted her to take it out of her account.
It was
And-
after she got Hannah back from when Brian took her.
Okay. Was that when Hannah and her came to stay with you for a few days?
Yes.
Okay. And so at that time, she had access to her own bank account that had over $60,000 in it?
Yes, because she went to the bank and showed her ID, wrote a check, and she transferred it over to our account.
Okay, so Chloe transferred $60,000 to your account.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And did she, to your knowledge at that time, have any, withdraw any cash?
I believe she had some. When she left North Carolina, she had $1,000 on her,
When she
if
left?
I remember correctly.
Okay. And so she transferred you the money. She
Oh,
had,
no, I do remember. I'm sorry. We went to the ATM when we left North Carolina, and she pulled out that money. So she would have cash on her while she was at my house, or just for an emergency, or if anything she needed to use it for.
Okay, so she had debit cards, checks, and access to that account with all the money in it.
Well, she had a debit card, yes.
Okay, all right. So she transferred you $60,000 and she withdrew $1,000 cash for herself?
If I remember correctly, yes.
Okay, and then after that, she chose to go with Brian to look at some property in Knoxville?
Yeah, it was, so after she transferred me the money, the few days later, he showed up, picked her up, picked Hannah up, and she wanted Eric and I to go with them, and we just couldn't do it.
Okay. And
But I look back at that now as a cry for help as far as asking her father and I to go, because she asked us a couple of different times to make sure, that she wanted us to go with them.
okay. And your statement before was that she went back with Brian because she had to go, she was trying to get back to Hannah, correct? Was that your testimony before?
At the Thanksgiving time when she made that video, yes.
Okay. And
I heard some of the conversations that on her end when she was talking with him.
okay. And even after Hannah was dead, her continued pursuit of Mr. Benyamin and her relationship, you'd agree that at that point he couldn't hold the baby over her, right?
Absolutely.
Because Hannah was deceased?
Absolutely.
Okay. And after she transferred you that $60,000 and she was arrested for killing Hannah, isn't it true that she reached out to you and accused you of stealing her money and wanted you to give the money back to Brian?
Yes.
Okay. And she told you repeatedly, that's my money.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't want the money. It was for her.
Okay. And you told her, Chloe, if you
Yeah.
continue to make these choices, you're going to lose your entire family.
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, she chastised you for speaking ill of Brian, correct?
Most likely, yes.
Okay. And she still wanted to be with him and still loved him even after she killed Hannah.
Yes. It was that hold he had on her.
Okay. You indicated that you spoke to Detective Cruz in this case. How much do you know about the actual evidence and investigation in this case?
I prefer not to know.
Okay.
I
You've
really don't want to know.
all right. You've intentionally not reviewed any of the evidence? Is that
No, I have no. My
Okay.
husband and I do not want to know.
okay?
I
And
don't
you,
want to see pictures I don't want to know.
okay. And is it fair to say that you have not reviewed any of Chloe's statements to law enforcement
No.
or the doctors? Okay. So is it fair to say that this jury probably knows more about the facts
Absolutely.
and evidence than you?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you obviously love Chloe. She's your only daughter, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And you understand that this jury was selected because they are neutral and unbiased, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'd agree that they are less biased and more neutral than you?
I mean, I would assume so. I would hope so.
All right. I have no further questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Any redirect?
Yes. Ms. Driver, are you here today just for Chloe? Or are you here for your granddaughter as well?
I'm here for both.
Okay. Looking back on this whole scenario, well, let me rephrase that. Every day, you think about this case, correct?
Every day I think about both of them.
And you continue to live with a lot of regret, correct?
Absolutely.
And then looking back on everything, do you wish you could have done more?
Absolutely.
Have you had the opportunity to replay all this stuff in your head and try to figure out different ways that you could have done more?
Yes.
Do you feel like you could have done more?
Yes.
Think you should have done more?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you're not absolving anybody here of personal responsibility, correct? You're here to give your perspective on what you saw your daughter endure, correct?
Yes.
All right, and that's you understand the position that we are all in, correct? And that you never ever thought your daughter would harm herself or her daughter, correct?
No.
And everything that you saw was Chloe being a loving and caring mother,
She did love Hannah.
okay? And it was clear to you as you saw her from November 26th up until December 20th that you saw physical changes in
Yes.
her appearance. I'm sorry, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And you also saw,
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the leading nature of these questions. This is for witness.
you also saw, sure, Your Honor. You also saw signs of visible emotional and mental distress, correct?
Absolutely.
All right, and those are reflected in those pictures that I showed you, correct?
Yes.
All right. And are you here today to persuade the jury one way or another?
No. I mean, I'm ready to accept whatever comes of this.
Okay. And you understand that, you know, you're not here to try to help Chloe in any particular way, correct? You're just here to give your version of what
Yes.
happened and you observed.
Yes.
All right, and it's clearly affected you tremendously, correct?
Absolutely.
Your entire family, is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
All right, I have no further questions, thank you.
Any further cross-examination?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down. Thank you, ma'am. All right, call your next witness, please.
I'm gonna call Sandra Torres.
It's okay if I step outside to speak to our witness and just let them.